Welcome to episode 283 of the Various and Sundry podcast. I'm your host, Matt Harmon, joined live in our virtual studio on the internet by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man who is at a 90-degree angle, John Scott Sloat.
Yes, I am upright, as many humanoids are, but not all. Not all humans.
That's right. That's right.
Do you want to walk? I mean, so a couple interesting things here, Doc. Today's Wednesday. We're recording.
Yeah, so this is the first time we've failed to get the podcast out on a Tuesday.
We're virtual.
Yep.
Albeit in the same, I guess not the same exact zip code, but pretty close.
Yeah. Neighboring zip codes.
Neighboring zip codes. And you've had something of I think I called it an incident. Is that the proper term?
I mean, we can call it that. Yeah.
Incident, occurrence.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll give the very short and sanitized, family-friendly version to avoid the E rating for this episode. So long story short, Monday morning I discovered I had a detached retina. And so late Monday afternoon I had a procedure to reattach it. And I won't go into the details of how unpleasant that was, but it was unpleasant.
But it wasn't surgical, right? I mean, it wasn't like you had a doctor with a scalpel inside of you mucking around.
They did. Yeah, I mean, I guess technically, no, it was not surgery, but there were sharp instruments involved. So, okay. I've actually been told that the procedure I had is actually probably more painful than the surgery would have been. So
really? Oh, interesting.
Yes, because for the surgery, they put you under anesthesia. This, they just numb the area and then do things.
We'll leave that out. Yeah,
exactly. And so as part of the recovery, I have to remain at keep my head tilted at a 60-degree angle for the next for about anywhere from 7 to 10 days.
When will you find out, like, what's going to be the determining factor for 7 to 10?
Oh, well, follow-up appointments.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're recording this on a Wednesday. We'll get this out later tonight, but I have my next follow-up on Thursday, tomorrow, and we'll kind of see how things are progressing and maybe get a better idea of how just how long I'm going to have to remain at the 60-degree acute angle.
And so you're playing hurt.
This is as hurt as I've played, John. But
for the listeners,
that's right. I mean, we had a streak of 282 consecutive episodes going, and it just felt like I'm laying on the couch. I'm at a 60-degree angle. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I can set the equipment up and we can make a little radio. So, I mean, that's what we're doing.
So, do you want me to do the you can reach us here stuff?
Go for it. Sure.
Okay. Things are topsy-turvy here. Things are different. If you're interested in connecting with us and learning more about the show, we're on X at VNS Pod. I think we're still there.
Yes.
Occasionally we get DMs there. You can email the show at variousandsundrypodcast@gmail.com. We'd like it if you subscribe to the show. I no longer believe we are on Facebook.
Someone will have to check. I think we might actually still be. It just hasn't been checked in a while.
And I think we're on YouTube still. Like I think these get posted to YouTube.
Sure.
However, one place you know you can find this is your podcast listener, because you're listening to it. And we'd love a 5-star rating or a 10-star rating or the highest number of possible positive numbers, stars, check marks, whatever the metric is. The
We
highest
want all
number,
the stars. Yes.
all of them. And write us a review.
Do
We'd
it.
love that.
It can even be snarky. It can be sarcastic. It can be, you know, you can make fun of us for our sports allegiances or talk trash. But what's important is the full 5-star rating.
The algorithm. We need the algorithm.
That's right.
Now,
That's right.
so let's go to sports.
Okay.
Their doc. NBA playoffs have been happening.
Yeah.
My beloved Knicks have made headlines in a few ways.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, one of the blessings of not recording till today is that we not only get to talk about the fact that the Knicks lost 4 games to 2 in the Eastern Conference Finals, the first time they've advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals in how long?
Probably 2000, 25
Yeah,
years.
so a quarter century, and yet that apparently is just not good enough for James Dolan and the leadership of the New York Knicks, who fired Tom Thibodeau.
Uh, yeah, I was perplexed by that. Fans always want the coach to go, it feels like. And so the fans got their way. So my sense is that it was not just the fans that wanted him to go, and I don't think it was even just James Dolan that wanted him to go. I think the players ultimately, from what everything I understand, as I've listened to a few podcasts about this, the players, at least some of them, wanted him to go.
Well, I mean, he's had a reputation of being a very demanding coach,
Yes,
focuses on defense
yes,
and demands high effort, plays his starters a lot of minutes, and it feels like you never see him smile. I mean, when you look on the sidelines, he's always got the scowl on his face. So you wonder what
yep,
kind of coach he is to play for in terms of just that kind of personality of it's never good enough. It's never, you know, no positive reinforcement. It's just, the taskmaster.
yeah. And some of the other reporting I've heard out of this has been that he didn't really use analytics, which is becoming a bigger and bigger part of the game. And he didn't play his rotation enough. He didn't rotate enough, which I think everybody criticized him for.
Yeah, and it's difficult, especially the further into the season you go, especially in the playoffs too. Like you you need to have guys that have their legs that late in the season. And if you're playing them heavy minutes early or really basically all throughout the season, then that makes it really difficult for them to have fresh legs the deeper they go into the playoffs.
Yeah. Yep. So initially I was like, this is insane. James Dolan's an idiot. And I think this could go one of two ways. I think it could blow up in their face and they go back to being really, really bad, or Tom Thibodeau's the guy before the guy.
Well, the little that I've seen, the talk is they want to try to get Jay Wright, former Villanova coach, but I just don't see him wanting it.
So I've heard Jay Wright. I've heard there's an assistant coach for the Cavs, Bradley, I think his name might be,
Okay.
uh, who might be out there. The Suns are also interviewing that guy for their head coaching vacancy. So we'll see what happens in the coming weeks.
Okay. So in the finals, you've got the Pacers and the Thunder. Who do you like in that matchup?
Um, Probably the Thunder.
I mean, that seems to be the pretty broad consensus that the Thunder are going to win in 5, maybe 6.
Yeah.
But
Who do you like?
um, yeah, I mean, I see no reason not to go with the Thunder. Um, I just think they're too talented. They're too good defensively. And if uh, if SGA is going to get continue to get the same kind of foul calls he's consistently gotten throughout the playoffs and go to the line as much as he is, it's hard to envision the Thunder losing.
Yeah. Yep. Um,
So I mean,
uh,
but the Thunder have a nice young core. I mean, this could be a team that is poised for a bit of a run here.
yeah, it's I saw one tweet that I thought was pretty funny that these are two teams built both by trading Paul George.
Yeah, yeah, which
Um,
that's got to make him feel great.
because where's he at? Is he on the Clippers? Is that where he at?
I assume so. Still, yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of faded away.
Well, anyone who goes to the Clippers basically just kind of disappears, which is
Yeah.
ironic given the fact it's in the second largest media market in the country.
Yep. Um, how do you think the execs at the NBA feel about this matchup?
Oh, they're hating the. I mean, the ratings are going to be terrible. I mean, Oklahoma City's a small market, and although SGA is, I think, a budding sort of superstar, I mean, he's the MVP. I don't think he moves the dial in terms of like people having to turn in to watch. And, Indiana doesn't have anybody that's gonna also, lead people to be like, I have to watch this team if you're not from Indiana.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously us living in Indiana, there's a measure of excitement about that, but it's not going to draw national numbers.
No, no. Um, what else was I going to say? Oh, we didn't talk about the comment by uh, I think it was Kenny. Kenny, is it Kenny the Jet on TNT who said Tom Thibodeau wouldn't play nine players in a baseball game? Did you see that?
No, but that's a good line.
So I just had to get that out there because I thought it was so good. Uh, but any other sports updates? What's going on with the Mets, Matt?
Well, as you might imagine, that's an area that I rely upon you since I follow Major League Baseball absolutely zero. Though last night I did watch about 4 minutes of the Guardians and Yankees.
Oh, how was that?
Oh, it was fine. I was actually waiting for, and my apologies for this in advance. I was waiting for the 30 for 30 to come on. That's the I forget the name of it, but it's Reggie Miller against the Knicks.
Ugh.
Well, I forget the name of what the official name of that is, but
Yeah, I've forgotten it as well, intentionally so.
I mean,
Um,
I understand why you don't like it, but it is a fantastic 30 for 30.
yeah, I mean it's a classic. I mean the back and forth between him and Spike Lee is
Yeah.
is just kind of legendary.
Yeah.
Uh, but uh, but yeah, back to the Mets. One of the best records in the major leagues right now, first place in their division. They're out in Los Angeles. You know, the Dodgers are sort of the team to beat,
Yep.
and they played the last two nights. They've played the Dodgers and have played them to extra innings both nights, and won one and lost one. So
Okay.
really, it's a good barometer for them.
All right. Yeah. Um, and I guess I did notice that over the weekend, Scotty Scheffler won the Memorial Tournament. I don't know if you watched any of that.
Yes. Well, you know what's funny? I think since October, Scotty Scheffler has, um, or I guess in the last month, Scotty Scheffler has a number of wins, like two or three wins, and it's
Hmm.
about the same as the Colorado Rockies. Uh, and since September of last year, I think the Colorado Rockies have the same amount of wins as the Denver Broncos. Um, so I saw some good tweets around that.
Yeah. 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 Well, I don't have anything else on sports. Do you?
I'm trying to think if anything else has happened as of late. I I don't think so. So I think we should transition to Tim Keller on the Christian Life
All right,
by
let's do it.
I always pronounce his last name incorrectly. Matt uh, Smethurst.
Hey, you got it. There you
I got
go.
it. Okay, okay. By Matt Smethurst. We're in our final two chapters. So chapter 7 is on prayer,
Yep.
and chapter 8 is on suffering,
Yeah.
and then the conclusion as well. So, Doc, what were your big takeaways from the chapter on prayer? Anything stick out to you? Did you read his book on prayer, by the way?
Um, did I? I think I may have read parts of it. I don't know that I read the whole thing,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I think it was interesting to see him acknowledge well, to see Smethurst describe how um it was a while into Keller's ministry before he realized that even his prayer life needed to take a significant step forward to continue and expand his ministry, but that even realistically, I think what part of what stood out is part of what God often tends to do is he gives you situations that force you to pray,
yeah,
as one of the means by which he cultivates our prayer lives. And so that resonates with a lot of people's experiences.
yeah. And if I'm remembering correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that it was really the ministry, going to church plant that really
Well, it was
zeroed in.
that, and also his wife Kathy was diagnosed with, was it thyroid cancer? Some form of
Uh,
cancer.
Crohn's. She had Crohn's. He
Oh,
had thyroid
okay.
cancer.
He had okay. Yeah. So some sort of, medical condition that's serious and difficult and challenging and
I also appreciate his. And right before we started reading this book, I read through Prayer Again by Keller. So I'm,
okay.
I'm probably halfway through it currently, but uh, talking about how long it took him to feel a sense of God's intimacy in the midst of prayer always stuck out to me. That it
Yeah.
took him 2 years of hard effort uh, to sense that intimacy was something just remarkable to me that it would take that long.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and again, I don't know. I want to be careful about universalizing one's own experience, but um I just think I I think for the vast majority of Christians, prayer is one of the harder spiritual disciplines to be consistent at. At least that's my sense.
Yes.
Um, and it's at one level, I think it's understandable, right? Because, um, I think we've all had that experience, and not just individual sort of one-off experiences, but extended experiences where it feels like, well, yeah, I'm praying, but it feels like I'm just kind of talking to the ceiling, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
there isn't that sort of relational dynamic experience of God's presence in the midst of praying.
Yeah. I mean, if we're being wildly honest here, like that's been a struggle I've had, trying to sort of go through the motions and uh, uh, finding that deep sense and that desire and need for prayer has been something lacking in my own life and something that I desperately feel like I need more of.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate Keller's focus, and it's been helpful to me of praying the scriptures. Like you start there, that's God speaking to us, and prayer is us speaking back to Him. I
Yeah.
think those are helpful places for me to start, certainly.
Yeah. Well, and I also he had a nice little section on how prayer makes theology real.
Hmm.
And I was trying to find the section here. Um, he had a little, yeah, here it is. Uh, this kind of, again, Keller was really good on the pastoral end of just having these little easy ways of remembering things. Like, basically, he's got this sort of like three simple steps for basically connecting experience with our theology and how prayer does that. That prayer helps us think out our theology, that it helps us work in our theology, and it helps us pray up our theology. In other words, that prayers that's on what is that? 121. Um, but yeah, I mean, I just think prayer is an expression of what one claims to believe about who God is and what Scripture says He is.
Yeah. While reading, I believe it was in prayer. I don't believe it was in this. He mentions that as you're reading the scripture, and praying through it, it's easier to do passages that you've studied deeply. It's easier to
Yeah,
do books of the Bible you've studied deeply because you don't have to get after what the original audience meant because hopefully you have a good sense
right.
what the original author meant to the original audience. And I thought that was a really good insight from him.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Um, Anything else on prayer? Do you want to press on to suffering here?
Let's move on to suffering.
All right. So, any reflections on that, being in the midst of suffering yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, again, there are obviously levels of suffering, right? I mean, and this is, I'm going through an unpleasant thing. It's not life-threatening. Um, it is potentially life-altering,
Yeah.
um, but I think it's one of the, um, one of the things that suffering does is it helps clarify who and what are important in your
Hmm.
life. And it helps you realize pretty quickly, the things that you get worked up about oftentimes are oftentimes on the periphery of what really matters and what's really important and valuable. But especially in pastoral ministry, you have to be ready to help people suffer well and do it regularly, right?
Yeah.
Because
Well, it,
go ahead.
Keller makes the point that he would, or I guess Matt makes the point about Keller's ministry is that he would plead with his people to prepare to suffer well.
Yep.
Like that suffering was not optional or a possibility, but was an inevitability, that this was something that was coming, and they need to prepare for it because if they're prepared for the suffering, it can actually be transformative to them. That
Right.
I don't think it was in here, but I remember listening to a Keller sermon where he said, imagine somebody that grew up with no problems, had everything provided for them, was given a trust fund, never had any problems in life. If there ever was a problem, somebody else came in and made it go away. What would you think of that person? And Keller said, your response is probably something like, goodness gracious, they're probably a spoiled brat and have no skill to be able to overcome anything, have no resiliency.
Yeah.
And his point was is that hardship, suffering, and difficult things in life uh, uh, actually refine character and change us, and often, if we're prepared for them, for the better.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that um, at one level that doesn't make it any easier. That, in other words, the suffering is still difficult, painful, hard,
Hmm.
challenging. But I also think that the whole area of what do we expect life to be like and what do we expect the Christian life to be like is one of those things where you often have expectations that you don't realize you have them until they're not met. And so, I mean, there's a whole strain of so-called Christian teaching, prosperity gospel basically. Well, if you just have enough faith, everything's going to go smoothly for you and you won't suffer, and that's just that's just not what scripture says about the Christian life. And that this is where we get into the whole like already not yet dynamic, right? Like the whole experience of a life without suffering and hardship, that's in the not yet category.
Yeah.
Very much in the not yet category. The already still has plenty of hardship, suffering of varying levels. And that's why I think it is necessary to, as a believer, prepare yourself, but also to help others be prepared to suffer well, because in the midst of suffering, it is difficult to hear truth through the emotions. But if the truth is already established a foundation, it's much easier for that to sort of take life.
Yeah. I also appreciate Keller's two things that I think are related. One, he talks about Job, and as many Christian teachers have pointed out, Job never finds out why he suffers. He
Right,
never hears like, well, actually, there's this big heavenly debate between Satan and God, and they went
right.
back and forth. He never
Yep.
hears that. Um, what he what Keller says is for all of us, um, he cannot explain why your suffering is happening, but he can tell you why it's not what the reason what's not the reason is God doesn't just want this to happen, or it's not because he doesn't
Hmm.
love you, because suffering is placed at the center of the Christian faith, right? Because Jesus, his son, suffers on our behalf. Uh,
Well, yes, and not just, I think obviously that's central, but at the same time, I would say it goes beyond that, in that as the God man, he understands what suffering was like.
mm,
That he can truly empathize. He can truly sympathize with that, not just in some sort of theoretical way, but in a real embodied way. The Son of God took on flesh, and as a result, he can, as the God man, understand what it's like to suffer, both physically as well as emotionally, relationally, all those types of suffering. He suffered those.
hmm So, so he, Matt goes through all those points, interacts with them, and then kind of comes to I believe, his last two subheadings, which are kind of the final years of Keller's life,
Yeah,
where Keller finds out he has pancreatic cancer, and that he is going to die. And so
right.
facing the cancer is one subheading, and facing death is another. Any particular reflections out of that? It was interesting through COVID to watch this all sort of play out. I remember learning that Keller had pancreatic cancer, and that he died. When did he die? Was it 20? Was it 23?
It was, yes, 23, because he died the day I was coming back from Belgium. I
Got
remember
it.
landing and getting, you get service for the first time, and you're like, oh gosh, something big happened. Oh, Tim Keller passed away. So, I mean, I appreciate that he's pretty honest in that section about, he had to wrestle with the whole like, do I like do I really believe this? Like, this is the testing point in terms of like, do I believe that in God's goodness, in his faithfulness, that death doesn't have the final word? And it was interesting to hear him talk about how the reality of death made his experience of everyday joys that much richer.
Isn't that
Of thing,
interesting? Yeah.
yeah, things like just sitting down and having coffee with his wife and that kind of thing, like just how it sweetens those everyday experiences as you know that they point to something greater beyond this life.
Yeah, yeah. Walks in the park, things like that. And
Yeah,
he said a couple times, I've never been sadder and I've never been happier, sometimes in the same day.
right. Yeah. And that really is the paradox of suffering, right? When, on the one hand, and that's where I feel like that section was really helpful in, some people want to so spiritualize the goodness of what is next in terms of the next life that they downplay the hardness of
Yeah,
what people go through in this life. Like, and Keller really held those together nicely.
yeah. Well, he was the master, you know, there's an extreme over here, there's an extreme over here.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle is the proper, he was the sort of the master
Mr.
there.
Mr. Third Way, yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Um, um, I think something that stuck out to me was, and it stuck out to me in the midst of 2023 as we were watching all this happen, was his focus on the resurrection. And
Yeah.
I think we can say famously now said if the resurrection is true, everything's going to be okay
Yeah.
on his deathbed. And um, yeah, I guess talking about the resurrection on your deathbed makes sense. I don't know that I would
Yeah.
have naturally have gone there.
Well, it fits also with something that Don Carson likes to say of I'm not suffering from anything that a good resurrection can't fix.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Anything else on this chapter on suffering or anything on the conclusion as well? I did not realize this. I knew his funeral happened in New York City. I didn't realize it was in St. Patrick's Cathedral, which I think is interesting. Um, but anything else there?
I mean, I just think this book is I think if someone wants to know what makes Tim Keller tick and what to take away from his life, um, this in combination with the Colin Hanson book is a great way to go about it. And um, Smethurst does a great job, I think, of being um, of selecting salient points and synthesizing things and making Keller. I mean, Keller has always been accessible in terms of how he teaches, but there's just so much that to have someone work through all of it and say, okay, here's like a 15-page chapter on this topic that has all of the sort of the lead points to like, oh, well, here's a sermon series here, and here's an article here, and here's a book here that if you want to go deeper, you can do that.
Yeah, I thought it was really helpful and thought it was really good. One final comment from the acknowledgments.
Okay.
So this is the what is this? 2 pages? Yeah, 2 pages. In the back, talking, where he's thanking his wife, his kids, telling him how much he loves them, all those things.
Yeah.
And he's talking about his mom who would proofread his papers when he was in high school. And he writes this sentence, Matt, that I think we could talk on pod with him. And yes, I'm still waiting for a publisher to ask me to write the definitive case for MJ as the greatest of all time.
I've got it listed as a question.
Is it a question in the doc? Okay, I
Yeah.
have just glanced at that, so I haven't given it a full look yet. But
We're gonna give him a chance to make his case.
okay, yeah, I'm really excited about that. Although I think with the two of us, he has a pretty sympathetic ear. Like I don't
Yeah.
think,
Oh yeah. He's
uh,
not gonna get any arguments from us.
no, no, no. Um, MJ is definitely, I think, the greatest of all time. Uh,
Yeah.
Not that there haven't been other great players, but maybe not the greatest human of all time. We want to say maybe greatest player of all time, but. Um, All right, are we ready to move on to this day in sports history?
Let's do it. Now, I should say before we give the date, we're going to do the date based off of when this episode should have dropped, which is it should be June 3rd. Yeah.
June 3rd?
Yes, that was
Okay.
that was actually yesterday.
Okay. So June 3,
Yes.
2025. You don't realize we're at the 6 month mark of the year. Uh,
Yeah.
it's almost half gone. 1950, French Championship men's tennis. Budge Patty. Am I getting that name
Great
right?
name.
Great name. Um, Wins first of two Grand Slam titles that year. Beats Yaroslav Drobny. Am I getting that right?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's close.
I think I got the Yaroslav right.
Yeah.
So is Budge Patty is not a Frenchman, I assume.
I would assume not.
Irish?
I don't know what to do with I mean Patty perhaps, yeah.
But Budge, I wonder what that's short for.
That's probably one of those nicknames where there's a I'm sure some sort of backstory behind it that is lost to us at least.
All right, 1 year later in 1951, French Championship men's tennis again. Yaroslav Drobny, representing Egypt. Interesting. Yaroslav representing Egypt uh, beats Eric Sturgis.
Sure.
That's fascinating. Yaroslav Drobny from Egypt.
Yeah. Maybe he's a transplant, who knows?
Interesting. All right, 1980, the Lord's New York Mets draft Darryl Strawberry, number one overall.
Yeah, do we want to hold on to some potentially breaking news related
Well,
to
yeah,
Daryl
let's
Strawberry?
let's
Hold on
hold
to
on to
that?
that. I don't know. I don't know if that's public, but I look forward to meeting him. We'll
Okay, a
leave it
little
at that.
teaser.
Yeah, that was a pretty good teaser, don't you think?
Yeah, it's great.
Um, in 2012, Tiger Woods claims his 73rd PGA, claims the 73rd, no, his 73rd PGA Tour victory with a two-stroke win over Andres Romero and Rory Sabatini in the Memorial Tournament at Murfield Village Golf Course, equals Jack Nicklaus's record, which I assume he's gone on to obliterate at this point.
Yeah, I think he ended up with he's in the 80s somewhere. 83 maybe, 84,
Yeah.
85 tour wins, something like that.
Yeah, wild. 2018 U.S. Open Women's Golf, Shoal Creek Golf Course. Arya Jatanugarn, oh, I butchered that, of Thailand, gives up a seven-shot lead, but wins in a playoff with South Korean Kim Hoo-ju. I have no clue. I have no clue. 2018
Close enough.
Golden State guard Stephen Curry breaks Ray Allen's NBA Finals record for most three-pointers with nine in the Warriors' 122-103 Game 2 win over the Cavs.
So who do you like out of that list?
My goodness. Well, I like Darryl Strawberry, but let's save him um,
Okay.
for another time, perhaps. I kind of like Budge Patty,
All right.
the great Irish tennis player who came to France and conquered.
I mean, doesn't that sound like um a kind of burger, right? Like you'd go to an Irish pub and you're like, "Give me the Budge patty."
Yes, yes, and it feels like you get it free if you eat it in under an hour, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, Budge patty it is. All right. How about one thing you like this week, John?
Okay, so I'm going to mention something that I discovered on vacation. I was trying to just find new things to do because we go to the same town every time, and I found an AI app that generates ideas to do, and you give it parameters and things like that, and it just spits out 7 or 8 things to do. And it's called Wanderboat AI. It's a free app, and you just type in, "Hey, I'm looking for lunch on this day in this area, and I want it to be within walking distance." And it
Okay.
will give you as many options, or we typed in, "Hey, what do we need to see within an hour's drive of this place?"
Hmm.
And one of the things it threw out was that there was an Irish castle replica that had been built near St. Augustine.
Okay.
That was like a half hour away that we'd never heard of before. And so we just drove up to this Irish castle to check it out.
Nice.
So wanderboat.ai.
So did the Irish castle feel remotely authentic?
It felt authentic. It felt out of place because it had a
Right.
view of the ocean with like palm trees around it. And you know how Florida gets that very thick brush? So it was kind of surrounded by that.
Yeah.
And there's this
Yep.
like 7-story castle sitting there. It just felt
Okay.
huge.
Interesting. So I'm going to go with this past weekend, my lovely wife was the commencement speaker at the graduation for Lakeland Christian Academy,
Nice.
and she did a fantastic job. It was a great combination of sweet memories with the kids, highlighting their accomplishments, but also a um, a call to everyday faithfulness. I think something that is desperately needed. So many of these graduation speeches end up being, you're going to go out and change the world, and like, well, maybe,
Or
but
make
most
your bed first and then go change the world. Yeah.
most of you are probably just going to end up, changing the world by being a faithful spouse and
Hmm.
a good parent and a faithful member of your church and a good neighbor and loving people well in that context. That's how you're going to change the world, not necessarily, creating the next big thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she did a great job with it,
Great
and
message.
very proud of her. So, that is my one thing I liked. All right, John, we have talked about the NBA Finals and the Knicks firing their coach.
Tom Thibodeau is gone.
We've talked about Tim Keller on the Christian Life, Part 4. We are delaying our episode with Matt Smethurst 1 week to interview him. So the next episode will not be that, but we will have that for you. We talked about John's new favorite tennis player, Budge Patty.
Budge Patty.
We talked about a new app that John finds fascinating, the Wander Boat app. And we talked about my wife's commencement speech. And so I think, by definition, we have covered our various and sundry topics. And so all that's left to say is, until next time, the Lord bless you all real good.
Later.